Here we go, bro. Just one.
They also fitted the aircraft with 4 303 machine guns. The design was pretty much the same as the Boomerang, the Wirraway, except they shortened the fuselage, they shortened the wings, a new set of outer wings, and if you have a look at the plan form when Doug is demonstrating the aircraft, you can see why they call it a Boomerang, because that's the shape of the wings. Very, very highly manoeuvrable. 250 of these were produced by CAC down at Fisherman's Bend in Victoria. If you drive over the Westgate Bridge, the factory and the airfield just below you. Definitely hear that DC-3-ish sound. They were allocated to 5 squadrons in Australia in the RAAF. 2 that operated overseas, 1 in New Guinea, 1 in the Solomon Islands, and 3 that were home-based in Australia. Now that whistling sound that you can hear is the sound of the air over the outer ports with machine guns. 4 and 5 Squadron were the units that operated overseas in New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. The 3 squadrons in Australia, pardon me, were for home defence, for convoy patrols, and operated in the north of Australia. The 70th anniversary of the bombing of Horn Island was only the other day, and they had one of the squadrons, number 84, based there. Now, although it was designed as a stopgap fighter, there was only one occasion when the Boomerang could have possibly made a mark in air-to-air combat, but that was with an 84 Squadron aeroplane that was operating out of Morocco at the time, on the southern side of New Guinea, but the guns jammed and this Betty bomber managed to get away. This particular aircraft was operated by number 83 Squadron, and the markings it carries are exactly the markings it flew with number 83. It was picked up as a frame at the end of the war. Basically, they went into service in 1943. End of 1945, they were considered to be obsolete and retired from military service. Very little could be obtained from the aeroplanes as scrap except for the outer wings, the tailplane, because the rear fuselage was a wooden monocoque over a steel frame. Many of these aircraft were purchased from where they were placed in storage near Oki in Queensland. Farmers would buy them because they're all full of nuts and bolts. Where the wings had been taken off, they still had a lot of usable material, which is in short supply at the end of the war. Matthew Denning, as a 17-year-old, picked up the fuselage frame of this aeroplane and said that he was going to try and rebuild it to static condition because he had a particular like of the Boomerang. And Matt started on the aeroplane and was following from guys like Dick Urrigan and Ron Lee, who were the doyens of the Boomerang in Australia. Only one existed completely. That had been given to the Australian Air League, and then it went to the RAAF as the only complete original example. A few years of restoration work on the aeroplane, Australia was starting to move into being able to fly these warbirds, these ex-military aeroplanes. So he thought, I'll try and get it airworthy. Everybody laughed at him. 27 years later, and being involved in every stage of the development of the aircraft and its rebuild, you have a world-class restoration here down to Matt Denning. The outer wing panels, there were no complete drawings, but with components that they had and some of the general arrangements and some small wing drawings, he reverse engineered the whole thing, manufactured jigs, and these are the outer wings that were produced exactly the same as the original. That was a labour of love that took him 27 years, and this was the first Boomerang to come from scratch in Australia. Another one was built from components that had been sent overseas to the United States, but that aeroplane actually flew with a set of modified Harvard wings. Guido Zaccoli, he had the same thing done overseas and flew the aeroplane from Toowoomba, but because of Matt's work, though all these aircraft have been able to be remanufactured with original wings. The aircraft was used as a stopgap fighter, but its principal role came out with numbers 4 and 5 squadrons operating on what was termed Army cooperation. What they did is they could go in, look for enemy positions, mark targets, the same as the Wirraways that were operating with those squadrons. Successful in that role. They also undertook reconnaissance missions, photo reconnaissance, and for that purpose there was a long-range tank that could be fitted under the aeroplane. It was a big bulbous thing, looked like a big bathtub. What they did, they modified it. They put a big camera in there, vertical camera, but because it was so low to the ground and all of the strips that they flew from were basically Marsden matting, or the PSP you see around a lot, pierced steel planking, a lot of mud everywhere. So how do you stop the lens being covered in mud? ingenious little idea. We'll put an aluminium slide over the slot and a wire ran up to the cockpit so the guys would take off. Once they got in the air, they pulled this little string, bit of wire, and the slide would open up the lens for the camera to take the photographs. They were very, very manoeuvrable aircraft, and there are reports of guys on the ground. They'd be there and boomerangs would appear between gaps in the trees, and they said virtually fly behind rocks. They were very, very highly manoeuvrable aircraft. They were very good for marking targets. The aircraft that were assigned to 5 Squadron that operated from Peever Strip on Torquay on Bougainville, they flew in conjunction with the Corsairs of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, particularly number 14 Squadron. They would mark the targets for the Corsairs that would go in and bomb the Japanese positions. The main gear legs and the tail wheel. Was actually the girlfriend of the guy who flew it in 83 Squadron, and it was amazing when Matt finished the aeroplane and did the test flying on it. This gentleman lived at Moruya and he wanted to show him the aeroplane that he'd flown in the war, because he obviously thought he would never ever see anything like it again. And I remember I was actually up at Hawken Hills when Matt flew the thing down the light aircraft lane into Bankstown, refueled it, and then straight down to Moruya and introduced the former pilot to his former aircraft.